Welcome to the video. Today we've got a great session that will help you optimize your LinkedIn profile so that you'll look better to potential employers and recruiters and ultimately get more interviews and job opportunities. We've got Maven Analytics lead Power BI instructor, Aaron Perry, and he's going to walk you through what employers are looking for on a LinkedIn profile and how you can optimize yours so that you'll really stand out. It's a great session. Let's get into it.
All right, so this is going to be all about marketing yourself on LinkedIn and really creating a very strong, kind of profile and presence on LinkedIn to show, potential employers and other people that you want to connect with, kind of what you're all about, your professional experience and all that fun stuff. So let's dig in. All right, so why LinkedIn? The biggest thing here is really consider LinkedIn to be your digital resume. And as you're networking and applying for jobs, I can guarantee that recruiters are going to reach out and look you up on LinkedIn. So the key here is really making sure that your profile makes a great first impression. And the ways that you can do that are to kind of anticipate the types of questions that recruiters or other folks that are going to be looking at your profile are going to want to ask. So does this look like a profile of a data analyst or of the person that is, going after a specific position? Does this look like somebody that we'd enjoy working with? Do they come across as professional and polished? Is it clear that this person's experience and skills are relevant to the role? Do you share any mutual connections? This is a great way to see if, you can get kind of a reference for somebody, send them a note and say like, hey, I noticed that you're friends with John. Can you tell me a little bit about them? And then what other types of content does this person share? How do they interact with other people? So again, the impression that you're making on LinkedIn and within your community engagement, it really speaks volumes about you. And it's a great way to position yourself in a good light. So the kind of focus of the rest of the session here is we're going to talk about these kind of main or these core 6 LinkedIn profile elements, right? So starting off with your profile photo, and this is something that should be clear and well framed, and again, really signal that you're professional and approachable. And we'll dig into some more detail for each of these different elements as we go on. So after a good profile photo, you really want to make sure that you have a solid background image. And the background image here is a great space to really sell yourself. You can do this by making sure that you're grabbing the viewer's attention. And this is a cool space to actually be able to show some of your kind of passion or creativity and really show your personality a little bit. This is a great space to kind of make your LinkedIn profile your own. Next, we've got headline and intro. And then this is something that it should make it clear that you're all about, either analytics or the specific job that you're looking for, right? So this can be a great place to list some top skills or tools. Your about section. This is a great space to share your personal story and really describe some of your top skills or major accomplishments. Again, we'll look at some examples from some actual people's profiles that do this pretty well. Up next, we've got the experience section. Again, this is a great place to show any sort of relevant experience. Kind of one of the key things here is to use clear and descriptive outcome-focused language, right? So again, you want to show that you are helping drive things and run or manage that kind of stuff. And then last but not least, you've got a space here for educations, licenses, and certifications. So this is an area to really feature any sort of relevant academic records, professional licenses, certifications, that kind of stuff. We always tend to get questions around this, like should I share badges and course credentials and stuff like that? And we'll dig into that in a minute. All right, so talking about your profile photo. The profile photo is something that should be clear and well framed, right, and signal that you're professional and approachable. So here's some great examples that work, right? Well lit, kind of front facing, smiling, engaging people. They look very purposefully taken. Here's some examples of what doesn't work. So on the far left there, you've got this guy who's kind of doing a bathroom mirror selfie, maybe he's at a work event or a wedding or something like that. In the middle, we've got kind of cool cat DJ. And then on the far right, we've got kind of the analytics bro with the beer, so not appropriate at all. So again, the the point here is to really make sure that you are showcasing the professional side, with your profile picture. So pro tip here, if you don't have a professional headshot, find a clear background and use a smartphone. It's a pretty easy way to get a very high quality photo. The other thing that you could do is there's a ton of different AI tools out there. There actually may be some tools where you could take a picture and kind of transform that into some sort of, profile picture or professional headshot. All right, so we've got the profile photo all squared away. Again, background image, this is kind of the next best place to be creative, to really sell yourself, grab attention, show your creativity. And what we want to do here is you want to make sure it's relevant to the audience that you're trying to attract, right? So if you were going for a job in construction engineering, right, this probably wouldn't be an applicable background for that, right? But if you were looking for an analyst position, this would be highly appropriate. Again, make sure that you're using clear, high resolution images. Make sure it's properly formatted and has the right dimensions. It's a great space to showcase any sort of relevant awards or accomplishments. John Smith here is showcasing, kind of his business intelligence prowess and a lot of the badges from Maven. But again, the key here is you can also be very creative and show some of your personality. Maybe you really have a very keen design eye and you want to design a background image here that kind of highlights your personality and some of these awards and stuff like that. So you can really do a lot with this section. And it's really important because it's often the first place that people interact with you or your personal brand. So again, just be very purposeful with what you're trying to accomplish here. Don't waste space using things like generic stock photos. Sometimes that's okay. If there's nothing else that you can come up with, at least it adds something to that background space. But again, if you can come up with something a little bit more creative to capture you and your personality, it's a great option. All right, up next, we've got the headline and intro. Again, make it clear here that this is you're all about the job that you're going after or the industry that you're trying to get into. So for example, John here, he's a data analyst and a data viz expert, specializes in SQL, Python, and Power BI. Listed his kind of current position, his school. So again, we've got a data or an analytics focused headline. What's pretty cool here is that even if this isn't his title, it's a great way to describe what John is doing, right? So he could be an associate analyst, but for a role title, but using something like data analyst and visualization expert, it's a lot more engaging, and it actually tells the person, looking at your profile a little bit more about what you're actually doing. And feel free to include some skills or tools, or describe what you do. So using statements like, I help businesses make smart data-driven decisions. These types of statements have become very popular over the past couple of years. This is also a great way to really help portray what you do. Include your current position in education. Again, if it's relevant to the audience and really helps kind of paint that picture of who you are. And then you can always add your geographic location and basic contact info. So again, a lot of these sections within LinkedIn can be customized. So again, whenever you see that pencil icon, you can click into that. Within this section here, you can edit things like your headline, pronouns, current position, industry, education, all sorts of stuff. All right, up next here, we've got the About section. And in this section, you really want to use the space to share your personal story and describe some of your top skills or major accomplishments. So here, John has a pretty clear kind of 3-4 paragraph, about section where he's talking about his experience as a data analyst, right? What he's doing, he's looking to drive actionable insights that deliver real world business value. He's talking about his background in supply chain management, or as a supply chain specialist in the military, right? And so he's kind of talking a little bit about like what he's done, who he is. He's resourceful, inquisitive, a data-driven problem solver, right? So it's a lot of great detail about describing who he is, right? That's relevant, within the workspace. So again, he's kind of telling that compelling story, describing what he is. He's being descriptive but concise. So again, there's no need to be overly verbose or too wordy here. Use relevant and appropriate keywords. So if somebody was trying to search for something or scan through the about section, kind of same concept here as using keywords within your resume. So things like data, analyst, analytics, business intelligence, different tool related keywords as well. Again, let your personality show through here. I think one of the biggest pieces of feedback that I give to people is just because this is a professional view of you doesn't mean that your personality can't shine through, right? So make sure that it feels like you while incorporating a lot of these other elements. So let your personality show through, but keep it polished and professional. Avoid using slang and poor grammar. And then again, sometimes I see people adding in either a call to action or their personal email. So, something like John has here at the end, if you prefer to connect directly, you can be reached at this email or say like, hey, connect with me, send me a note. Would love to hear what you're up to and connect. So kind of last piece here, pro tip, don't bluff, right? There's nothing worse than either being disingenuous, in these about sections or kind of at any point throughout your LinkedIn profile. Really just what you write should be, as accurate as possible and be a good reflection of who you are as a person. All right, up next, we've got the experience section. So again, here, the kind of core pieces are to showcase your relevant experience. Again, remember to use clear, descriptive, outcome-focused language. So you can see on the left-hand side, we've got things like analyzed data, developed dynamic and interactive reports, managed, used SQL, right? So we're using that outcome-focused language. Again, in this section, you really want to write job descriptions and clearly show your relevant skills and quantify the impact that you've made, right? So anywhere you can, kind of quantify that, like in John's last point here, where he helped reduce inventory turnover by 20%. It's a great way to quantify the impact that you're making or the contributions that you're making. Really focus on some of your more recent or relevant roles. So if you're looking for a new job, making sure that you're kind of prioritizing, anything that is really relevant to that or to the new role. And I think I saw some questions about that already, so we can kind of talk about that a little bit more in the Q&A. Using clear and descriptive job titles, and then link jobs to company pages on LinkedIn. Again, this is just going to give folks that are digging into your profile an opportunity to actually go to that company page, check out what they're about, and potentially that job. All right, so you can add media, like links and videos, to this section, but we actually recommend using featured posts or featuring posts. It's a much better way to showcase this content. It actually adds a whole section into your portfolio or into your LinkedIn profile. And again, we'll kind of showcase that here in a minute. And then again, education, licenses, and certifications. Great place to really show where you went to school, some of the, potential academic certifications or any sort of like clubs or things that you were interested in while you went to school. So again, this section, make sure you include the school's name, degree, field of study, enrollment date, honors, or GPA. Some of that stuff is optional. A lot of times if you perform or do really, really well in school, it's great to add in, if you have any sort of honors designation or a GPA, if you're especially proud of that. Listing out any sort of relevant activities or societies. Again, think about the story that you want to tell, right? So let's say you played intramural like Frisbee or something like that. That might not be relevant to add in here, but saying like, hey, I co-founded my university's first sports analytics club. That's a great detail for somebody that is actually looking through your profile to potentially bring up during an interview or a call. It's like, hey, can you tell me about this sports club analytics team? Like, that sounds really cool, and it's a really easy way to talk about something. And it's also a great way to kind of show what you're interested in, and give a little bit of insight into your personality. So again, key here is making sure that anything you're listing here is relevant. You can use the description field within the section to showcase your major honors and accomplishments. And then finally, adding licenses and certifications that you've earned through courses or boot camps, any sort of industry-specific exams that you've taken. Again, what you're doing here is adding data points to help validate your skill set. All right, so that's kind of the core 6 fundamentals or building blocks of a LinkedIn profile. Last pro tip here. Again, I feel like a lot of people are pretty good at this, but less really is more. Really resist that urge to stuff your profile with a lot of filler content and pieces, and really just focus on what matters most. I think one of the areas where we see this most often is on the tools and skills sections, where it's like, oh, I've touched Python 2 times, so I'm going to add that as a tool. Or, I know a little bit of Lean Six Sigma, so I'm going to add that in as a whole skill, right? So again, really just focus on what's really important, and what matters most. All right, so a couple of pro tips here, and then we're going to actually jump into LinkedIn and take a look at a couple of people's profiles. So sharing badges to help validate your skills. Again, with Maven, we offer course and path specific badges and credentials. And again, it's just a great way to showcase that you have gone through and accomplished, kind of completing those courses, helping to validate your skills, and hopefully catch the attention of recruiters. So again, you can kind of complete those paths or courses, you can add the badge, and then you can share that to LinkedIn, create a little post, you can add it to your profile, all that fun stuff. Again, there's a lot of different learning platforms as well that you can follow this same or similar path to add those badges and credentials to your profile. And then kind of putting your best work forward. So here, this is all about that, the featured section. So what this does is this allows you to showcase specific posts at the top of your profile. And again, this is a great way to really promote your best content and share either projects or posts or media, that you're specifically proud of. And again, this can be changed and updated. This can vary depending on the type of role or position that you're looking to land. But again, the point of this section, it's a great way to showcase some of your top work. And again, just some of the detail here behind what Clay Cooper has showcased on his featured section. Again, I think John had mentioned this a little bit earlier, but if you don't have any projects to share, we do have monthly data challenges. We also have a ton of free data sets within the data playground. So you can go there. We have some analytics prompts to help you get started. So again, it's a great way to start building out some projects and stuff to add in to that section. All right, so quick takeaways. Think of LinkedIn as your public digital resume. It's going to be the first impression that people and recruiters see, so make sure it's positive. Keep it professional, but let your personal brand shine through. I think I have a feeling that if you kind of look through LinkedIn enough and start interacting with people's profiles, there's certain folks that just stand out for some reason, right? Or you remember them a little bit more, right? And chances are is they're doing something there that is letting their personality kind of shine through, and that's why it's sticking with you. So again, it's a great place to kind of figure out different ways to show what you're passionate about, show your creativity, and tell your unique story. Again, sharing badges and credentials to help validate your skills. And then using featured posts to showcase your best projects. Again, it's another way to validate your skills, but it's really one of the easiest ways to actually show recruiters and potential employers what you can actually do. All right, so I'm going to jump out of the slides here. Perfect. And I want to go through a couple of different people's LinkedIn profiles here. And I've actually given all of these people live feedback in the past. So nothing that I'm going to mention now or talk about now hasn't already been said to them. So if we kind of look at Nate's profile here, right, start at the top, and Nate has an awesome job. I don't think he's looking for anything. But if he was, there's probably a couple of things that, immediately stand out to you, right? If this is your first impression of Nate, right, kind of starting at that top of the LinkedIn profile elements list, if you will, looking at the profile picture, not awesome, but not terrible, right? Smiling, kind of see his face. Does look like it's cropped, from some other event, type of photo. I'm imagining that there's somebody standing just to the left of him over here. So again, maybe updating the profile picture could be an easy win there. Missing a background image is the LinkedIn stock kind of background image. So again, a lot of opportunity here to kind of show that personality or some creativity. Nate's super into baseball, so maybe something around stats, that's kind of baseball oriented or something like that could be cool. Jumping down here to kind of headline and intro, Nate's an operations manager at HelloFresh. He's got his current work, education. So again, pretty decent kind of headline and intro. We jump down to the about section. Right, Nate talks about, a little bit about him. We get a little bit of insight that he used to be a sports writer and now he's turned into a supply chain professional. Again, we get kind of an idea about some of the expertise and tools and what he's worked through. So after that, we've got the, featured section. Nate does a really good job here of, adding some posts. He's got a few different projects and stuff here. So again, this all looks pretty good. And then down here, we've got experience. Could potentially build this out a little bit more with some different details. One of the things that I'm a fan of is adding in at least some bullet points for what you were responsible for. So as an associate manager, what were some of the core tasks and responsibilities, right? How did you impact the company in those roles? What I do love here is that we've got the skills kind of called out, right? Six Sigma, SQL, Microsoft Office, that kind of stuff. So kind of scroll back up here. So that's Nate's. Jumping over to Colleen. So Colleen, love the profile picture, right? Very high energy. It's inviting. So I think this is really well done here. If I'm being very critical, the background image looks like it's a stock image. Not very creative, but it's clean. It isn't distracting. So that's great. But I think that there's potentially some opportunity here to kind of evolve the background image a little bit. Looking at the headline and intro section, pretty basic here. Just kind of see that we've got this analyst keyword. Again, nothing wrong with this. But again, we get kind of an idea of what she's about. We've got some kind of employment or course related stuff, and then education. We jump down into the about section. Colleen's got a great about section, right? Kind of following that 3 to 4 paragraph, kind of best practice. She's talking about what she's passionate about. If I'm kind of scanning this, like maybe this is the first time that I was reading through it. I've got 13 years experience of data collection, process monitoring, report writing, adept at analyzing, right? It's very richly packed with a lot of those kind of key or core keywords. And it kind of gives me a good sense of what she's all about. Again, Colleen does a great job featuring some content here. Got some dashboards, looks like Tableau, potentially Power BI here. Looks like some Excel tabs and stuff like that. So again, really good job using this featured section. I see John talking about how the featured section is really a very underutilized section within the LinkedIn profiles. It really is an awesome way to even just feature posts or other conversations or stuff that you're having if you don't have actual project work to focus. Then experience, like here that Colleen is kind of adding in a little bit more detail, some kind of bullet points about what she did at each of these in each of these roles. So here, as a student within the Maven Analytics Bootcamp, what she did as a assistant manager for extra space storage, right? So again, this adds some good context that if people really want to dig into each of these positions, they can very quickly come in, kind of scan these, read through the bullet points, and get a good understanding of her work history. So again, pretty good job from Colleen here. Some things that I might, recommend updating or evolving a little bit. And then lastly, we've got Lisa. So again, Lisa's got a nice headshot here. Again, excited, personable, and it's clearly lit, all that kind of stuff. I actually really like the simplicity and the design of her background image. Again, it gives me a at a glance look about the kind of tools and topics that she's either interested in or has certifications in. I'm not quite sure, like if I'm new to looking at her profile, I'm not quite sure what she's actually specializing in or has certifications in. I do see this Microsoft Office expert badge here, so it's a good indication that she's taken that exam. Love the headline. I transform data and create dashboards and analytics. This is a great way to talk about kind of being role agnostic, right? This is a great way of saying like, hey, I love to create dashboards and work on analytics projects without saying like, oh yeah, I'm an analyst at this company. So big fan of this. She's got her current work here. The about section's a little bit light. I think that this would be one area that I would recommend that Lisa kind of focus on. There's nothing wrong with this single sentence, but again, if somebody's coming to your profile for the first time and you want them to kind of get a good glimpse into who you are and your personality a little bit, feel free to expand in a little bit more detail than just a sentence. So a decent opportunity here to improve this. Again, Lisa's doing an awesome job with her featured section. Looks like she's kind of ordered these in priority of interaction. All right, so she had this dashboard here. Looks like it was her first Tableau dashboard, and she's got over 1,100 interactions and a ton of comments and stuff. So again, really, really nice job here on the featured section. And then again, heading down into experience. Again, I think Lisa is doing a good job of combining both what Nate and Colleen were doing, where we've got some bullet points here, plus we're listing out some of the actual skills or tools that she's using on the jobs here. So yeah, overall, great job here, showing that license and certification section, the Microsoft Office Specialist job, the MO201 expert badge here, and then some of the Maven certifications as well. So yeah, so those are some examples of what I think works, what doesn't work. If you're looking at your profile and thinking it's like, oh man, I don't have some of these different sections, up at the top of your profile, you should have this add a profile section button. And here you can add in different sections from the LinkedIn categories, right? So you've got some of these core sections where you can add in educations or positions, add in career breaks, skills. You can add in featured sections, licenses and certifications, projects, courses. And then you can add in other things like volunteer experience, patents, honor awards, test scores, all sorts of stuff. So again, goal here is that you're making this representative of you and your personality. And however you feel, you want to kind of tell that story by adding in different sections and adding in different relevant experience. I think it's all valid. So that that kind of brings me to the end of really what I wanted to kind of talk about and share. I'd love to jump into some of the Q&A stuff. John, I really haven't been paying attention to the chats and questions, but looks like we've got a healthy conversation going.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of them. And so, Aaron, if you go into the questions tab, and if everybody can kind of focus your questions there, there's an upvote feature where folks can upvote, and I've been looking at them, so I'm happy to take the first one, and maybe we alternate, or you could pick out another one that looks good. So there's this one is from Caitlin. Thanks, Caitlin. And also, I'll just note there's a bunch of flavors of this same question, which is basically I've got different experience that's not data analyst experience, or I've got or potentially no experience, but I've done some projects, but no job experience. And so how do I talk about that on a LinkedIn profile? So I think either way, kind of how Aaron's walked you through how somebody will read this, I think all of that advice is really good. Like, you're not going to make up jobs that you didn't have, right? But as somebody goes through the top and sees the banner, sees the headline, like make sure each of those things sort of scream data person as much as you can. And there's been a number of examples of how people do that, whether in the banner it's certifications, or even Colleen had just sort of that stock image of a chart. That's better than nothing. That's better than calling out that you did something different. So use the banner, think about it top down, all the things that somebody's going to perceive. The headline, I would put data analyst as your headline there. Don't put your current job. I think that's a big one, where if your headline says like I'm a salesperson, or like whatever your other thing is, that's a pretty quick way for somebody to go, oh, nope, like that's wrong person there. Mm-hmm. But if you've got that headline, if you've got a good banner there, and then if you get into the experience section, here's where I would start sort of one, under any jobs that you have, if you can call out like relevant experience within those jobs, like something that you did, maybe you're a salesperson, but you aren't, the title is like a sales role, but you did some things with reporting about sales, and you used Excel, or you did some kind of automation or any kind of data analysis. Like talk about that there. And then, but even before you get to that, there were some really good examples of the featured section. And Aaron showed Clay's, Aaron showed Nate's, Lisa's is really good. So there's, check out those. The featured section is so awesome. And I would, for anybody who is looking at that, and yeah, so Aaron's got this featured section here. And what's interesting about this, so Aaron's got the view where like you're viewing his profile as him, like kind of on the back end. And there's a couple sections that are the public wouldn't see. So the feature section is like right under the top. It's like one of the first things that people see. And if you have like a dashboard project that you've worked on, get 3 or 4 of those across the top in the featured section. And like, that's the first thing that someone will see. So sort of turn that featured section into a portfolio of projects. Yeah. Just like Lisa has. And I think that's one of the best pieces of advice I would have. So you see the banner, you see the headline, and then you see a bunch of projects. That's probably the strongest possible execution. And then by the time they get down to experience, by the time you hit them with, oh, I've had a different background, they've already seen what you've been up to with these projects, right? So it really softens that blow, and it makes them think, yeah, I'm potentially a good fit still, because she's got that stuff. So anyway, long-winded answer. Hopefully that's helpful, but there was a lot of questions that were very similar. So wanted to go into detail there.
I think the other piece that's important there, John, is it's like, I'm someone that comes from like, I've had 3 kind of different careers, right, throughout my career, right? And, up until, I don't know, 13 years ago, like I wasn't squarely in the analytics field, but I was doing jobs where, analysis was part of it, right? So I'd never, embellished or, provided kind of false, insight into what I was doing. But what I realized is that, a lot of the work that I had been doing, like you're diagnosing and troubleshooting problems, right? You're using data to make informed opinions about something, right? So there's always a way that I feel like you can find a common thread from, previous job history that you may not feel is related, to, like maybe you were a project management professional, right? Guarantee you're using data at some point to make decisions, right? So it's about kind of how you're telling the story about what you were doing in previous jobs, to help that kind of, segue into your career change.
That's awesome. Yeah, I could start throwing some other ones up here. So let's see. A lot of them are very similar to what we've answered here. Abhilasha, should I add the projects in detail under the project section on LinkedIn? Personally, I think it's featured section all the way. So that's like for just because that's the most prominent section. That's you just want to get those projects to the top, and it's the same kind of advice that we gave in the resume section as well. Like whatever your best stuff is, get it to the top of the page, get it to the top of the screen. And so if it's your project portfolio, that's where that can live, and get a link to if you've got it nicely packaged up, like for folks who were at Enrique's session last week, get a link to that probably somewhere in your about section, or like if you can get it up in the top, that's a good thing too. But like position those things really highly is what I would say.
Awesome. Noah's got a question here. I'm not seeing how I can add it, like kind of call it out to start and answer live, John.
I can.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. So do you recommend adding things like Maven Analytics or boot camps as experience under licenses and certifications? Personally, I think that's a great place to showcase, any sort of experience that you, have learned through, learning platforms, right? The biggest piece here is that, again, like really focus on what's relevant, right? So if you've got a bunch of certifications from or courses that you went through from 10 years ago, maybe that isn't relevant anymore, right? So making sure that it's current and it's relevant, and that you're not just adding them for the sake of adding them. I think those are kind of the key pieces, but listing them under, licenses and certifications, I think is a fine place for them.
Awesome. So this one actually just came in the chat, but it's from Sahar. Says, I've got a PhD in electrical engineering. Does mentioning my degree in education section have a negative effect? So a PhD in electrical engineering, while it's not like something in data analytics, I mean, you're obviously working with some good hardware. You've obviously got work ethic. So it certainly does not hurt you. It's probably not the first thing that I would want to put in front of somebody, right? So if it's on your resume, I wouldn't put it as the top line. If it's on LinkedIn, I wouldn't put it as the headline. It says that you're smart, but there's other things like projects, like any kind of work experience that's relevant that I would put higher, but like, don't hide that. You did a PhD. Electrical engineering is no joke. Like if that's great. It's definitely not going to hurt you. So yeah, hopefully that helps.
Yeah, we've kind of got two related questions here, one from Tom and then one from Bill, where Tom, here, let me start this one here. So Tom is saying, like, hey, a common recommendation is to personalize or tailor your resume to each position that you apply to. And that's easy when it's printed, right? It's easy to do that, in Word, but how can that be done for LinkedIn? And Bill is kind of asking that a similar question, right? Should your profile be any different than your resume, right? Do you want to mimic the same kind of accomplishments and stuff? So, curious to, John, for your thoughts on this, but my 2 cents is that when you're submitting a resume to a company, right, you're tailoring it to that company for a handful of reasons. One, you're kind of using different keywords that are in the potentially in the job description, right? You're going to update, things like potentially relevant experience or tools, updating the kind of summary section that's kind of specific to that company or the role that you're applying for. Maybe the role is a little bit more, senior or has a little bit of management, and you want to highlight that experience in your resume a little bit. I think that the physical resume that you're sending to a company, that's stepping through the door, right? That's your, hey, I'm interested in this. Check out my physical resume. And that gets you the opportunity to then have a broader conversation, right? And you're doing that at the company level, right? Or the job specific level. I think that your LinkedIn profile is more representative of you as a person and what you're kind of capable of. So while the physical kind of resume I feel is good to tailor to the specific job, your LinkedIn profile is really about you and your personality and your relevant skills kind of across the board, right? And that's where things like your headline, your background image, the about section, like you can address a lot of those stuffs and things and really come across as a well-rounded professional or, analytics professional or whatever kind of professional for the job that you're applying for is. So that's kind of how I think about those two vehicles, if you will.
Awesome. This one's from Dan Gerard. Basically, can you have too much in your skills section? Dan, I'm looking at your LinkedIn. I think if you're the Dan Gerard from Smart Bear, I see some Maven stuff here. You've got tons of certifications, which is great. Yeah, a lot of Maven stuff. I'm looking in here. What I'm trying to see here is like, is there anything that's like irrelevant? So let's say there were, so you've got 40 things here. Let's say there's like 6 of those that are perfect for the job that you have. Like I actually am not sure if you can kind of reorder them. It looks like they're generally chronologically ordered. You could maybe take some license with that, but like I would try to get the best ones up there if we're talking about like the licenses section. Cause you've got a ton of stuff, but I mean, it's all like Tableau. It's all, to me, it feels very relevant. So nothing seems, if it was like basket weaving or, whatever stuff that isn't relevant, I would get rid of that, but no, you're good. I mean, your experience is good. The things under, at least certainly under that, like the licenses, and certifications section, your experience is pretty fantastic. You could, you've got your featured section. You're kind of promoting courses. One thing you might like, I'd say courses are cool to have in the featured section. I personally think projects are much, much stronger because if I'm trying to hire somebody as a data pro, just seeing the work that they do is more important to me than like seeing what they've studied. And I just like, it's not even close. So that's the only thing I would say there. But you're looking pretty good. Assuming that is indeed you, Dan. I think otherwise it's quite a coincidence. But hope that helps.
So what are some creative ways to design, or what are some ways to design a creative LinkedIn banner? I think Microsoft Paint is the preferred. No, joking. Honestly, like I like doing this. Like I am not a designer. I don't have access to a lot of like the design tools. But PowerPoint is like my go-to, right? You can take a bunch of images and lay stuff out and, mess around with it pretty easily. Help Lisa out with this one as well. And again, we kind of built this in PowerPoint. It's easy to edit as well. So that's my go-to for a lot of this stuff. But I'm sure there's lots of other tools that can help you out.
Yeah, awesome. Let's see what else here. Here's kind of how many paragraphs should it take in the about section? I mean, I don't think there's a right answer for that. I wouldn't have it be like 10 paragraphs. Maybe it's 2 max probably, but something that's pretty succinct and something that's very relevant to what you're trying to do. I have a pretty long one myself because I have like a lot of I have like a bunch of links that I want to help folks see to some free content. But so mine is a bad example. Don't use mine as an example. But yeah, I think for folks, yeah, Colleen's is probably about right. It's not too crazy. And I think one of the things and this is a really good example, and this came up a lot in resumes and in portfolios. So Colleen, she starts with, I'm a data professional, and then she talks about how her background can kind of work into that. And that came up a lot in profiles last week, where people would say, I'm a 8-year veteran in healthcare and I'm transitioning into data. And I would encourage you to not talk like that. I would talk about yourself as a data analyst or a data professional with 8 years of healthcare experience, right? So it's really just reversing what comes before and after the comma. Also, thinking about yourself like that, I think, matters too. So if you talk about yourself as like a wannabe analyst, that's probably in your head, that's where you are. If you talk about yourself as an analyst, which I think you can because you're analyzing data, who has this awesome domain experience, that's, to me, much, much better. So I would encourage, basically talk about yourself like you're already in the end zone and you've just got the domain experience there.
So we got this question from Julie. Done some projects in Tableau. However, I'm not an expert in Tableau. How should we word the fact that we've done some work in these platforms or software? I love this question because it starts to get into, the interviewing process and how you would respond to these types of questions. Like in a simple phrase, own that, right? Own the fact that you're like, hey, I've got some experience with Tableau. I'm continuing to develop my skill set, right? Use that as an opportunity to talk about like other trainings that you're working through or other courses that you're excited about, or how you're participating in data challenges. And I'm using Tableau to try to get better at it. I think that you can, if I look at Colleen's stuff here, one of the things that's really cool again about the featured section is you could, let's say that this is the final version that you want to show of your Tableau dashboard on the left here. You could show an evolution of the dashboard, right? And say like, hey, this is where I started off. This is where I've gotten to, right? This is how well my skill set has progressed over the past X amount of time, and really kind of craft a narrative around that. But I think it's something that it's personally, I love seeing people talk about the fact that it's like, hey, I'm continuing to learn this tool, versus somebody that comes in and is like, oh yeah, I'm an expert in Tableau, right? And it just kind of end of story there. So I think finding ways to own that, showing a progression in the featured section is a great way, and kind of talking about, talking about it in your profile using different types of language, that might hint at that.
Awesome. I've got one from Bill here that I think is a good one. Should your profile be different than your resume in any way? Like, do you mimic the same accomplishments featured on your resume? I think in general, it's same philosophy. Figuring out whatever is the best thing about you that kind of markets yourself the best, make it the most prominent, which means get it near the top. That's the same strategy I'd encourage in both. I think the one kind of big difference that a lot of people miss is that that LinkedIn is just a little more visual than a resume, where a resume you're generally mostly text, and for good reason. Like you don't want to have crazy stuff going on in the resume, so it can't get scanned and stuff. But so there's some of these examples that Aaron shared, like using the banner, using the featured section. Use some eye candy if you can that will get people's attention. I'd say that's kind of the one thing that's different executionally, but strategically, avoid the pitfall of thinking like, hey, I've seen someone else's resume or someone else's LinkedIn profile and mine has to look like that. They may or may not have the same strengths and weaknesses as you, and you basically want to highlight your strengths, get them to the top, and not say you're hiding your weaknesses, but like don't lead with them, and understanding what those are. So same strategy, just different execution.
So one piece here about talking about soft skills and how to showcase that or talk about that within your profile here. And a lot of times, like I very much like the Simon Sinek approach to like soft skills, where it's like it's really, you're really talking about like people skills or like interacting with other human skills when you're talking about soft skills. So talk about think about using words like coaching and managing and teamwork and leading and those kinds of those kinds of words to talk about it, right? I think it's tough when you read a profile and it's like, led a team of 6 people to successfully complete BI reports, right? There's different ways that you can talk about, things like, coached and mentored, a group of analysts and, helped their professional development and things like that. So I would try to focus on those types of words, because you're really, when you're talking about soft skills, you're really talking about people. So make it people focused.
Awesome. There's a question from Jeet about best data influencers to follow on LinkedIn. I just posted in the chat section a link. We actually have a blog post about that. I think it's relatively updated. There's probably a few new people that I would add next time I update this. But in that blog post, if you guys take a look at that, it's I talk about kind of who I think you should follow, and here's sort of the things that they talk about. But there's no harm in following everybody, and just it's actually a really good point. Today, we're talking about your LinkedIn profile, but in terms of kind of a strategy for learning and connecting with folks, that's a great thing. Is just go through and start following people that are talking about data. You'll learn some stuff. You'll see what they talk about. You'll get some ideas about things that you can talk about. Eventually, you might feel comfortable interacting with them, starting to get to know those people, and starting to kind of share your own experiences in a similar way. And that can be one of the things that really can potentially set you apart. So great question about like who to follow. A little bit not perfectly on the topic of profiles, but I think really relevant to marketing yourself and getting active in the community.
Kind of one last one here before we wrap up from Cheryl. Would you suggest building out duties for every role? Again, like you could kind of go a couple of different ways here. It depends on how long the experience is, like how many roles or how many other companies are you trying to build out your kind of core job responsibilities for. Again, bring it all back to, is it relevant, right? Is it something that's going to be impactful, or like the current or the employers or potential employers are going to care about? The other thing that I like doing, and I do this for some of my earlier career experiences, I just have like a short summary, kind of box of like the overarching job responsibility and kind of what I did there. So that's another way that you can add in detail about a job without having to actually kind of build out or bullet out all the duties and responsibilities.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I think that kind of wraps us here. Let me do a couple final links to make sure everybody gets some of these things. So I'm going to put that cohort learning coupon back in the chat in case anybody is missing it, but it's cohort 35. Make sure that's all caps if you end up doing that. The other thing I'm going to put in here right now is the registration link for Thursday's live event. So that's here in the chat as well. So that'll be Aaron and I. The way that works is you'll go to that registration link. You will see a Typeform link where you can submit your LinkedIn profile. We'll probably, I don't know, for resumes and for portfolios, we were able to get through about 10 or 12, I think. And Enrique and I tag teamed those. We'll probably do something similar. So just to set the expectation, in the resumes one, I think we got like 110 and we could do about 10 or 12. So you'll try to get those in as quickly as possible. We're going to go for whoever's first. It's kind of the only fair way that we can do it. And it'll probably be Aaron and I tag teaming again. I hope everybody will show up. Just make sure to register. Make sure to, if you want to be critiqued, fill out that type form. You don't have to be critiqued if you don't want to put yourself out there, but you just want to watch us give other people advice live. We're happy to have you. And if you guys, that's question, Diane. I just posted that link. It's it should be at the registration link. You should also see a link in the description under about this event that says, make sure to pre-submit your LinkedIn profile here. So just go ahead and do that and you should get it. But this was really great. Aaron, amazing job. Such good advice in here. I think hopefully a lot of folks will take it. You'll clean up your LinkedIn profile and you'll be looking a lot better. Hopefully that means more inquiries, more interviews, more jobs for all the folks on this. We might be near record attendance at one of these events. It looked like close to 200 people. I forget what we got the past couple of weeks, but it's nice. So awesome that so many people want to do this with us. So thank you so much, Aaron. Thank you for everybody for attending, and we will we'll see you guys on Thursday.
Awesome, guys. Thanks so much. Looking forward to Thursday.